6.1 Plan Schedule Management. Plan Schedule Management is the process of establishing the policies, procedures and documentation for planning, developing, managing, executing and controlling the project schedule. The key benefit of this process is that it provides guidance and direction on how the project schedule will be managed throughout the project. This process is performed once at predetermined points in the project. That's from PMBOK Guide page 179. Plan Schedule Management does not plan the schedule. Instead, it plans the plan schedule process itself. In this process, we will be deciding the policies and procedures that will be required, what documents, plans and templates to use. In a lot of companies, project managers and the team are somehow supposed to just know what to do and get on and do it. Then everyone gets upset when someone uses a document or a process they weren't supposed to use or used them in a different way. And so it is much better to make the process less informal and avoid confusion. Imagine what would happen if all the project teams in the organisation used particular software applications to create project schedules. Then a new project manager spends a couple of weeks creating a schedule using a different software application. It's much better to create a plan for the schedule management, then everyone will be on the same page, literally. Let's look at the inputs, and this process has four major inputs. Number one is the project charter. Some of you are probably surprised that this old guy hasn't been retired yet. I don't mean me, I mean the project charter. But the charter still has a few tricks left in it, and you'll see this coming back again throughout the project. In this process, we're looking for primarily is the milestone schedule. We are interested in that because although it is very basic, it's actually the nearest thing we have to a project schedule. And so it can give us a general overview of what we're trying to achieve, where and when, and this milestone schedule will influence how we create and manage the project schedule. Input number two is a project management plan, which is like the Swiss Army knife for project management because it contains all the plans and baselines, and it contains the life cycle as well. And the subplans we are interested in, and for this process, are the scope management plan. The scope management plan describes how the scope will be defined and developed, which we can use as a basis for planning how the schedule will be developed. Development approach. What is a development approach? The development approach is the method used to create and evolve the product, service or result during the project life cycle, such as predictive, iterative, incremental, agile or hybrid method. That's from the PMBOK Guide, page 707. As you can see, the approach is going to have a bearing on the estimating techniques and the scheduling tools and techniques for creating and controlling the schedule. Input number three is the enterprise environmental factors, and the ones of concern for this process are organizational culture and structure, team resource availability and skills and physical resource availability, scheduling software, guidelines and criteria for tailoring the organization's set of standard processes and procedures to satisfy specific needs of the project, and commercial databases such as standardized estimating data, which you'd see in construction industry, oil and gas and similar. Input number four are the organizational process assets. And for this process we're looking at historical information and lessons learned repositories. We have done this project or a very similar project before. What did we learn from it? What problems did we encounter? How do we fix them? How do we decide to avoid them the next time? There's an old saying, if we do not learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. There's nothing worse than hitting a problem, then remembering that you solved this problem in a previous project. But no matter how much you rack your brains, you just can't remember how you fix it. From the organizational process assets, we are also looking at existing formal and informal schedule development, management related and control related policies, procedures and guidelines. Why do we need these? Because that's how they do things around here. If we do something different from how they do things around here, they won't be happy, even if it works better, much better than before. I've even had that experience. People just don't like it. I will give you an example. A number of years back, I was employed as project manager of a large organization. And almost every time I told them how to do something on a project, the standard response was, no, we don't do things that way around here. I told them how to create a project charter. No, we don't do things that way around here. The charter on one of their projects was 178 pages long. It should be 1 or 2 pages. It should be just high-level information. I told them the correct way to design a schedule. No, we don't do things that way around here. I told them how to track progress with the earned value technique. No, we don't do things that way around here. I wanted to run risk management workshops. No, we don't do things like that around here. I wanted to re-baseline the project for a number of major changes that had been approved. No, we don't do things like that around here. No matter what happened, they never changed baselines. I put milestones on the project schedule. No, we don't do things like that around here. The manager said to me, you can't tell people that things have to be done by a certain date. Things take what things take. If you tell someone they must finish an activity by a certain date, they will just be stressed out for no good reason and they're going to miss your deadlines anyway. I wanted to compress the project schedule and they said, yes, that's the way we always do it. Nah, just joking. They said, no, we don't do things like that around. Eventually I said, look, all of your projects are late. They are over budget. The quality is so poor that almost half of your staff are doing wee work instead of project work. Maybe the way you do things around here is not the right way to do them. But they looked at me like I was talking crazy. I left there about a week later. I was crazy for not leaving sooner. Okay, what other organisational process assets do we need for the plan schedule management process? We need templates and forms. We need monitoring and reporting tools. Now for the tools and techniques. Number 1 is our expert judgment. You've seen this several times already and you'll see it quite a few times more as you work through the PMBOK guide. Some people get a bit confused by this one. They think that you have to hire some sort of genius, some expert judge with a degree in whatever knowledge they need. But expert judgment can come from a stakeholder, someone who works in the area or trained in the area and with expertise in similar projects. It can even come from the project manager, strangely enough. It's not unusual for the project manager to be an expert in the product, service or result. My background is largely in systems development. And often I was the expert on the team as well. And in mature industries such as construction, you can use books and published tables as a source of expert judgment. But for this process, we are planning schedule management, as a type of expert judgment will be related to this area specifically. So that means expertise in schedule development, management and control, scheduling methodologies, example predictive and adaptive life cycles, as appropriate for the development approach chosen for the project, scheduling software and specific industry in which the project is being developed. Technique number 2 is data analysis, and for this process we are specifically interested in alternatives analysis. Alternatives analysis can include determining which schedule methodology to use or how to combine various methods on the project. It can also include determining how detailed the project schedule needs to be, the duration of the waves if you're doing rolling wave planning, and how often it should be reviewed and updated. And an appropriate balance between the level of detail needed to manage the schedule and the amount of time it takes to keep up to date needs to be reached for each project, and that's PMBOK Guide 181. What it's saying there, you want to be able to have enough control and detail in your project, but you don't want to have your team spending all their time just on the nuts and bolts and the little bits and pieces. Rolling wave planning was mentioned in the video on Create Work Breakdown Structure. It's an iterative planning technique where you plan just the immediate work in detail and keep the future work in summary until shortly before you need to do it. Tools and techniques number 3 is meetings. You will need to plan what sort of meetings you're going to require, the frequency, the trigger for calling the meetings. Some meetings there like we're going to meet every Friday and talk about the progress on the project. PMBOK actually hates those regular meetings, and so do I. So really a trigger is a reason for holding a meeting. the purpose, who will attend, what are the responsibilities, how minutes, if any, are going to be recorded, how they're going to be distributed, and so on. One of the problems with the project management process is that you can forget where you are. Sometimes you need to remind yourself that you are, in this case, in plan schedule management, and this prevents you from drifting off on a rabbit trail and actually starting to plan the project schedule, for example. So now that you can remember that you're in the plan schedule management process, what do you think the first output is going to be? Absolutely right, the schedule management plan. This will become one of the sub-plans of the project management plan, and it establishes the criteria and the activities for developing, monitoring and controlling the schedule. Whether the schedule management plan is created in a special project software application or on a spreadsheet, a work document, or even handwritten, PMI doesn't care. That's up to you, because the PMBOK guide is not prescriptive. Organisational process assets, because that's how we do things around here. As long as it contains the necessary information, is securely filed, can be easily found, and complies with the many records and management legislation, then all is good. There's a whole bunch of details that can be established by the schedule management plan. These include the project schedule model, development schedule methodology, and the scheduling tool, release and iteration length, when using an adaptive life cycle and the time box periods for releases, waves and iterations, level of accuracy for time periods, units of measure such as person hours, days or weeks for human time, or meters, litres, tons, kilometres, miles or cubic yards for quantity-based resources. Organisational procedures, these are the links to the work breakdown structure. Project schedule module process for updating the status and record progress of the project in the schedule model during the execution of the project. Control thresholds, variance thresholds for monitoring schedule performance, rules of performance management, usually for earned value management, EVM, and reporting formats which defines the layout or templates to be used, and the distribution frequency. You can find a little more information on these schedule management plan details on page 182 of the PMBOK guide. That brings us to the end of 6.1 Plan Schedule Management.